In this video, I'm going to show you a really simple trick that uses sidechain compression on your vocal reverb to make sure the vocal stays loud and clear in the mix. So let's dive right in. I'm going to start by just showing you really quickly what this trick entails, and then I'll go into it in a bit more depth. So here I've got a lead vocal, a send on that's going to this vocal verb channel here, and this is vital. It needs to be on a send, otherwise this trick won't work. So it needs to be on an aux channel via a bus. Let's listen to what we're working with. I know for sure that I love you. Okay, so it's kind of dreamy, very atmospheric, quite soft. And I want to have some nice lush reverb on the vocal. I've got this mono delay. Let's listen to the vocal in solo. I know for sure that I love you. But let's just mute that for now while we play around with this. So then I've got this vocal reverb channel. So send 28 is coming in here. Then I've got some reverb on it, and then just a bit of EQ to kind of shape it and bring it out in the mix a bit more by boosting that top end. Let's have a listen to that. I know for sure that I love you. So quite a long tail there. And when I do this in the mix, if I bring that reverb up too loud, as I bring this up, listen to how the vocal gets pushed further away in the mix. I know for sure that I love you. Dream number 12, your love goes. Sounds just kind of swamped, it's getting pushed back in the mix, but I still want to have that nice lush tail on it, the end of the reverb that we can kind of hear delaying out, because it's going to give it that dreamy sound. So what I can do is add a compressor to my bus, and this is what it has to be on a bus, and then set the sidechain to the vocal, which I already have going to bus 1. That's how I'm sending the audio from my actual lead vocal channels here. I've got 2, it's split across 2, and they're both going to bus 1. So I know that's where my lead vocal is. So it's triggered by the vocal, but it's going to dip the reverb. So now if we adjust the threshold, I know for sure that I love you. You can see it's reacting to the vocal even though we've got it on the reverb channel. So now if I solo this just so you can hear what's going on more clearly, we can hear that the reverb will just come up at the end of the phrase and between the words. I know for sure that I love you. Let me make that more drastic so you can really hear the reverb pumping in and out. I know for sure that I love you. If we play with the release time so it sounds a bit more natural. I know for sure that I love you. So between the words we can hear that reverb coming up, and especially at the end there, versus without that compression. I know for sure that I love you. And I'm just going to gain stage this a bit so that the level with this in is the same as it out. So we should have something like this. I know for sure that I love you. I know for sure that I love you. So now this is without any sidechain compression. I know for sure that I love you. And then with. I know for sure that I love you. Make it even more drastic. I know for sure that I love you. So now we can only hear the reverb between the phrases. So that's a pretty over-the-top example. I'm going to tweak this a bit now. I'm happy with the release time and the attack time. That sounds quite natural. Fast attacks, I want the reverb to dip down really quickly, and then a slower release because it sounds quite unnatural if it's pumping in and out too much between the phrases. So I'm going to just tweak these settings a bit more. I know for sure that I love you. I know for sure that I love you. For sure that I love. I know for sure that I love you. I know for sure that I love you. I know for sure that I love. I know for sure that I love you. So now the reverb tail is there, we have the dreaminess of that reverb, but the words aren't getting swamped by it. Now let's listen in the context of the mix. So this is if I didn't have any sidechain compression, and the reverb's still really loud here, it's going to be really noticeable. We're going to make this much more subtle in a second, but just so you can hear what's going on.
I know for sure that I love you.
Sounds quite swamped, whereas now
I know for sure that I love you. Dream number 12, the alarm goes off. I know for sure that I love you. Dream number 12, the alarm goes off.
so without
I know for sure that I love you.
and with.
I know for sure that I love you.
But it's still pretty drastic. So now I'm going to bring back in that mono delay and tweak these, and I'll do it in solo first just so you can really hear what's going on, but I would normally do this in the context of the mix without hitting that solo button.
I know for sure that I love you. 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 I know for sure that I know for sure that I know for sure that I love you.
So now I'm dipping it down to the point where it's not a really obvious effect. I'm still just trying to get it to sound like a bit of a reverb on the vocal, but because we're dipping it during the actual phrases of the vocal, it's not getting pushed too far back in the mix, but we still get to keep that nice tail. And that's really the situation where you want to use this trick, is where you want to have that kind of noticeable reverb tail or quite a lot of reverb on the vocal, but you're noticing that it's pushing it too far back in the mix, and the vocal itself is a bit too swampy, a bit too messy. It's getting in the way of the words. The vocal isn't as clear with that reverb. This kind of gives us the best of both worlds.
I know for sure that I love you. I know for sure that I know for sure that I know for sure that I love.
So let's listen to another phrase now, because we're probably getting a bit sick of that. So let's go to this different phrasing here.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised. Take my life as well, I dedicate it all to you.
So let's do a comparison. This is without any reverb at all.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
And with.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
So now it's just got a bit of space around it, but it's not pushing the vocal back too much. And we'll do that in solo as well, so no reverb.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
And with.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
We can really hear that tail at the end there. It's a really lush tail coming in because of that compression, though we're not losing the definition of the vocal. So that's it. That's basically the trick. You can use it as a really obvious over-the-top effect where we're kind of pumping in the vocal like this.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
To really get that tail.
Take my heart and keep it close, it's a little bit bruised.
Or you can use it subtly like I did before, more like kind of a mixing context where we're just adding some space to the vocal, not as an effect, but to make it sit better in the mix, and then just using some sidechain compression to manage that definition and manage the actual way that the reverb interacts with the vocal itself. Of course, this is just one part of the mixing process. I've got some mono delay here. I was also playing around with some stereo delay, and that's not even including EQ, compression, everything that goes into making this vocal sound professional. So I put together a vocal mixing cheat sheet that will take you through all of those steps and will be a handy reference for you to use when you're mixing to make sure you go through everything you need to do to make that vocal sound radio ready. So it's completely free. If you want to get that vocal mixing cheat sheet, just head to the link that's on screen now or the link in the bio. So that's all for this video. I'm Rob from Musician on a Mission, and if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.